In this video, I'm going to show you how to build an automation using N8N, where it's going to spy on your competitors' social media. In this particular example, I'm going to use YouTube. What we're going to do is use Airtable, and it's going to run with N8N. And then what we're going to do is use a service called DataForSEO, and we're going to scrape YouTube channels of our competitors. And this particular automation is going to read all of the comments underneath videos from our competitors. Then we're going to pass through a feed of all of those comments that people made into an AI. And the AI is going to read through all the comments and understand what's going on in the niche and what topics that people want more content on. So by spying on our competitors, we can get AI to read all the comments on their social media and come up with content ideas. So this way you can get a lot of really great insights into what's happening in your niche without having to scroll through and read all these comments or watch a lot of these videos. So you can adapt what I'm about to teach you in this video in a lot of different use cases. And you'll see when we get into this exactly what I mean by that. But for this example, I'm just going to scrape YouTube videos. But in future videos, I'm also going to do one on TikTok, like reading the TikTok transcript and filtering and seeing which content's doing really well for your competitors, and then get the AI to watch all the videos by reading the transcripts and then coming up with ideas. So once the AI has read the comments, it's going to then go and do another search using DataForSEO again with a different API endpoint. And it's going to get a whole bunch of related questions that people ask, similar search terms that they use, and broaden out to find out more subtopics or ideas for content related to what they found from scraping the YouTube channel. And then it's going to organize all of that into content ideas and put them back in the database. And in this case, we're going to use Airtable. Now, you can use Google Drive for this. Some people have asked me, can they use Google Drive? Because you need a paid account at Airtable to do these sort of automations. The answer is yes, but I'm not teaching that in this video. I'm going to take you through using Airtable because that's what I use for all my automations. So that's the workflow. Now I'm going to show you how it works. And once we've run through and shown you in action, then I'm going to build it step by step, and you can just watch and do it with me. Okay, the way this works is over at Airtable, all you need to do is get the name of a competitor. Now, in this example, I'm going to use Alex Hormozi. He's not actually a competitor of mine. I'm just using it as an example because people recognize Alex Hormozi. But all you have to do in Airtable is you put the competitor name and then you put the video ID of their YouTube video in this column. And then what we're going to do is build out other things like our brand, because we want to train the AI when it scrapes the content and reads the comments underneath videos of our competitors. We also want to train it and say, this is what our brand's about, just to make sure the ideas that it comes up with actually fit our brand. So what we do here is we pull in our own brand avatar so that when we do the automation, the AI also has access to that. I'll show you how to do that in this video, so don't worry about that for now because it will become clear when we do it. But all you have to do is if we hop over to N8N, this is the automation here. So we've got a webhook that's going to fire and then get all the data that comes through from Airtable. The Airtable record's going to get pulled with this module. And then here, this HTTP request is where we're going to actually send the request to get the scraped YouTube content using a service called DataForSEO. I'll take you through the rest of this in a sec. Let's just turn it on. Then we go back to Airtable and I'll show you all you have to do is go like this. So it's set to no status and you just go scrape comments like that. Now there's a lot of other things we can do, but for the sake of keeping this video short, I'm just going to show you the scrape comments. But in future videos, I'm going to do all sorts of other spying techniques to get content ideas. There's so many that you can do. It's really amazing. So let's head back over and you can see here it's working now. So it's already scraped the comments here. And then it's passed this through to an AI, which is now reading all of the comments that got scraped, and it's sorting through them, and it's outputting it now, and it's updating Airtable. So right now, it's already got the ideas in Airtable, so that's how quick it was. But it also then created a keyword search to go to do a live Google results page using DataForSEO. So it goes to Google, gets a search engine results page, and it finds the fields like people also ask, people also search, related keywords. So by getting ideas for the videos from a YouTube channel, we can then go and use those as a seed and do another search here, pass that into an AI, which is also filtering the information and coming up with content ideas, and then it's going to update Airtable here. So the end result was we're going to have a list of ideas in our Airtable in a matter of like a minute or maybe a little bit over a minute. The AI is just finishing off iterating through all the results that it got through this HTTP request. And then once it's finished, it's going to update Airtable, and then we can head over to Airtable and see the ideas for the niche content. Alrighty, so now that that's complete, if we head back over to Airtable and we just go to the content ideas, here's all the ideas that it got for us. So the cool thing about this, which I like about Airtable, is we can easily just group these to make it a little easier to see, because the way that we organized it was by different categories. So I just grouped by categories. So the AI came up with short form video ideas, social media post ideas, and long form video ideas, and it grouped them. So you can see in here, it gives me a title of the video or the piece of content, a description, and the reason. Like, it'll say several comments contain personal stories. It tells you why it came up with the idea and where it got the insights for it. So here we can just see we've got all these ideas for content. So now we can just scroll through and get content ideas. So what I'm personally building out for the stuff that I'm doing is a large scale version of this when you build and build on it. So I can read comments underneath my competitors' videos. I can read their whole video transcript as well, and which is another automation I'll do. I can watch their TikTok channels, like a whole bunch of TikTok channels of competitors being watched, and reading their transcripts and finding out what they're talking about without having to watch it all, because I haven't got time for that. So I want automation to be doing all of this for me in the background and then telling me this is the latest trends in your niche, this is what's going on. So this is the cool thing about automation. We can do these great things now. So this one's a pretty straightforward automation, but again, you can adapt it to whatever you're looking for once you learn the skills of how we put this stuff together. So let's get in and build it right now. So the first thing that you need to do is get a Airtable account. And again, you can do this in Google Drive for free. For those of you who want to use Google Drive, that's perfectly fine. I don't use it myself. I just use Airtable because I like it, and it's more powerful than Google Drive. But it does cost money to use the automation part of this. So you have to decide what you want to do. If you want to use Google Drive, the same principles, you just have to use HTTP requests to connect. It's a bit different in the connection, which I don't go into in this video. So what you first need to do in Airtable is just set up the table name. I've called this Content Spy. And then the subtable down here, you can call it whatever you like. I just left it as Table 1, not a great name. That'll do. And then you just got to name the columns that we're using here. So let's just go through now. All you do here is call this one name, single line of text like that. I'm going to go quite quickly because I know some people watching these videos already done this, others are beginners. So if you haven't done this before, just pause the video and then take your time. The next column here is called video ID, and this is a long text, so make sure you choose long text. Okay, the next one's a status field, and this is status, and you want to choose single select. So single select. Once you've chosen single select, you need to give two options here. Right? To be honest, you actually only need to just do one for now. We don't have to update the status, but technically when we're finished scraping, we can come back and change the status to comments scraped. But just for now, just put scrape comments in there and then have that status select. This is how we trigger the automation to begin. That's really important. Leave it at that for now, and then we're going to go to another table here next to it, and we're going to create brand avatar. So here have a column called brand name, then just have a single line of text, brand name. The next column's avatar, and then it's a long text, avatar, and that's all you need to do. And I'm going to show you how this field here shows up in a sec. But in the avatar column, all you're doing in this field here is just writing a really detailed avatar of your brand. Okay, so that when we feed this into the AI and it comes up with content ideas, it knows our brand. Otherwise, it doesn't know our audience. Yes, we might be scraping information from our competitors, but they might not be exact competitors. They might be close competitors. So when we come up with content ideas, we need to give more context to the AIs to help it tailor the ideas to our particular niche. Our particular brand. So this is what you do there. Just write a really detailed description of your particular avatar that you're targeting. And then you can name it. This is obviously just an example here. So what we want to do, once we've got that set up, we want to link that back to this main table here. Okay, so the way we link these two tables together is over here where I've got brand avatar. If I just go edit this here, you can see I've got link to brand avatar. I'm building a bridge between the two tables. That's all I'm doing. So if you click in here, it's linked to another record, and then you choose the table you want to link to. In this case, it's brand avatar. Okay, and then once you've done that, you want to click, because I've already set it up, it's not giving me the option to do it again. But when you click through and go yes, it'll ask you what fields that you want to pull through. And it'll say, do you want to add a lookup field? And you would say yes. And the field you want to look up is the avatar field, this one. And by doing that, what it's going to do is it's going to pull the avatar field, see here, it's pulled it through to this table. So I've got the same field in this table. Here, that field is now showing up in this table. And the reason we're doing that is when we trigger this automation from here, when this row gets pulled into our automation, it's going to pull this with it. So it just means we can get it all in one swipe and pull it all through. So that's all that bridging is doing. Then we need another table called content ideas. Okay, so in here, edit the field here, single line of text, call it category. And then another column here called title, single line of text title. Another one called description, which is a long text description. And then another one called reason in here, which is a long text. So make sure you got all those set up. And then what we need to do is connect an automation from N8N to Airtable. So before we do that, let's just hop over to N8N and have a look at what we're doing over here. So you need an account at N8N. You can just get a free account on a 14-day trial. So what you first want to do is a webhook. So you need to go over to the right and click webhook like that, okay? So click webhook. Once you've done that, open the webhook up and copy the URL that they give you in there, okay? You need to copy that. Keep that copied. And we'll come back to this in a second. And then we're going to go back to Airtable. And then over at Airtable, we're going to go to the Automations tab at the top there, click Automation. In the bottom left-hand corner, click Create Automation. Once you've done that, in the trigger field here, you want to choose when a record matches a condition. And then in the configuration, choose Table 1. And then in the conditions, choose when status equals scrape comments, just like I've got there. The next thing you want to do is run a script as an action. The next tab is an action, run a script. For those of you who have watched my videos in the past, you've seen me do this a lot. Here's where we got to paste in this code. Okay, so I'll whack this code below the video for you. All you got to do in this code, though, is you got to change this URL in here to the URL of your webhook that we just grabbed from N8N. You've got to change that out or it won't work. On the left-hand side, you need to create a variable input. So you want to call this record ID, and that I in ID is a capital I. And in the value field here, click the plus blue button and choose Airtable record ID, just like that. Once you've got it set up like that, click finish editing and then turn it on. You must turn it on. That's all you need to do on the Airtable side, and we're done on Airtable. Okay, so let's hop back to the main table. The way we trigger this automation is in the status field. So I'm going to leave that blank for now. But when we run this automation, all we got to do is go like that, scrape comments, and then it will start the automation. So let's hop back now to N8N and build out the rest of this. So the next module that you want to do after the webhook is an Airtable module. So over on the right-hand side, just go Airtable like that. Make sure you choose a get a record. Once you've got get a record, open up Airtable like this. Now, what you need to do, if you haven't done this before, is you need to make a connection from Airtable back to from N8N back to Airtable. And the way we do that is we have to put in our credentials here. So if you haven't done this before, in the pencil icon at the top there on the right, click that and add your credentials. If you don't know how to add credentials, then follow the docs link on the top right-hand corner. Just click on that and the document will walk you through how to connect. Essentially, all you got to do is make sure that you get your API key and the user code or whatever it's called. They walk you through it here, and then it will connect, and then you can build a bridge to do it. I won't go through that in this video because it's a reasonably straightforward step, but you need to use this. You need to get used to doing this if you're using Airtable, but you have to build a bridge here, this connection. Once you've done that and you've made a connection between the two services, then when you come back in here from the drop-down menu, you can choose what you named it in here. And then you want to leave everything else the same, but in the base, this is where you choose that name that you named your overall table. So just to remind you, if we head back, I called it Content Spy. See, when you've built that bridge to the two, you'll see the name show up because it's pulling the data through. And then the table name is just table 1. And then in this record ID field, you want to set that to expression. And then what you want to do, I'm going to flick this to schema so it's easier to see. But inside the webhook, if you scroll right to the bottom, you'll see something called record ID. Grab that record ID, drag and drop it into that box like that. And that's all you need to do. Once you've done that, you can click test step. And then what's going to happen is it's going to pull a record through. So in order to actually test that properly, and I'll just cut that off there so it's not actually connected now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just test this right now. We'll go and trigger the automation again so you can see how this works. If I go here, and I'll just trigger the same automation again. See, I've just changed the status to the trigger status. This webhook will then fire and it will pull that table through. So you can see it came through. If we open it up, you can see there's the record. But what you want to notice is it's also pulled the avatar through. See, that whole information of the avatar has been pulled through, and we can use that and feed that into the AI. So I'm going to connect this back here. And the next module we have is an HTTP module. So I'm going to go like this, HTTP, like this. and then I'm going to open it up. I'm going to click it and then open it up and fill in the credentials. So let me just explain to you what we're actually doing here. We're going to connect to a service called DataForSEO. So if I head over to DataForSEO, this is a pay-by-use service. So you can just put like $5 on here. It's not a monthly fee. And then you can just use what you need. But the first, once you get logged in, you've actually got to go to the API access and get your credentials. They'll give you your API key and everything that you need to connect. So when you're back at N8N, when you open up the module here, what you need to do is make sure you connect your credentials here. So the authentication type here is a generic credential type, and it's a header auth type like I've got here. And then in this pencil icon here, if you click on that, that's where you're going to have to put in your details here of your, in this box here, you put authorization. And then in here, in that box, which is, you can't see, this is where you put your API key that they give you. So you put the word bearer with a capital B, and then you put your API key after it with a space. So bearer, capital B, put a space, and then your API key, and then you save it. Then you've got your connection sorted for the to be able to use this tool. So once you've got that set up, and using N8N, you have to get used to using API calls a lot. When you're doing automation building, you really just got to get used to connecting services like this. So if you haven't done much of this before, I encourage you just to practice. Because once you practice it a few times and you build automations a lot, it becomes very, very straightforward when you see any tool that has an API access. You go to their API page and they'll just tell you exactly how to connect them. And once you've done this like half a dozen times, it becomes a lot easier. So if you haven't done it before, don't be put off by it. You will be able to do it. And then in here, you want to set the headers to using the fields below. You actually don't need to use the name here again. That's doubling up because we connected that already, that header. But you do need this. You need content type application JSON like this. So just like I've got it on the screen like that, you need that. Send body, select yes, and you want to have that set to JSON, and then using the JSON below is what you select. Okay, in the body field of this JSON here, this is where we send the information over to Airtable, over to DataForSEO. So what we've got to do in here is this is where we've got to dynamically map in the ID of the video that we want to get the comment scraping done. So in this field here, this is where that will do that scraping for us. So if I just delete that out, I just hard-coded it for the example when I was working on this earlier. But because we've stored that ID in our Airtable row, you can see here video ID is stored already. If I drag and drop that and put it between the quotes like that, it's going to dynamically map in that ID. So you got to imagine if you've got a table full of like hundreds of videos with all their IDs, this is going to iterate through one by one by one by one automatically for you. So you can go through hundreds of videos doing this. And the AI is going to read all of the comments that people made under the video, and then it's going to look for content ideas based on the sentiment and what people are asking and talking about. It's a really great way to get to the heartbeat of what's going on in a niche by, going through all these comments, but you don't want to be doing it yourself. You want the AI to do it for you. So once you've mapped that in, the rest of this code that you need here, you get from DataForSEO. So if I go over to DataForSEO, in the playground section here, if you go to DataForSEO, so it's app.dataforseo.com/API-playground, and then you can select in here all the different endpoints that they have. It's a really incredible service. As I've said in previous videos, this isn't just for SEO. They've just got so much data on all sorts of stuff that you can create an amazing amount of different automations using this tool. So what we're going to do in here is when we go to the playground here, I'm just going to select from this field here, YouTube, okay? And then in the SE type here, I'm not going to go for organic. I'm actually going to go for video comments. So they actually have an endpoint specifically for scraping video comments like this, okay? Set the location to wherever you want. I'm going to set it to the United States like this. You could change the locations, fine. And you can see how deep you want to go, how many comments deep you want to go. Let's put it on 100. Okay, then in here, if you were just using it from here, you would put the video ID, but we're not going to use it here. We're going to use the API call to do it. I'm just in here to show you how this all gets set up. So once you want to know what goes in that body field, if you go to code, they actually show you in here. So you can see here, data raw, this here, if I can copy it, is what you want to copy there. You want to copy that and you want to go back, and that's what goes in here. And then you dynamically map in the video ID like that in between the quotes like that. So that's how we build the automation to call different IDs. Now you can automatically build another tool that will populate the original Airtable automatically too. You don't have to manually add all these IDs video by video. But for the scope of this video, I'm not going to build that out. But I have done in other videos and automations that I've built for myself is just get an AI to go and scrape a whole channel and get all its IDs and whack them all down there in a matter of minutes. And then you don't even have to add them. It's automatically done for you. But for now, I'm just going to keep it as an example, adding one manually, just so you get the idea of how this works. Okay, so let's head back now. We've got this set up, so we could run that automation now. Okay, so I just clicked test there to run it. I just paused the video while it was running. But you can see here, this is the data that it's pulled back. So it's gone to that video and it's got all the comments underneath that video. So this is really great. Obviously, I've just set it to a depth. I think it was 20 comments, or more. I can't remember. But you can play around with it. Once you've done that, this is the data that we want. This is where we want to get all the information from. So what do we do with this? Well, we set up an AI module here. The way we do this is we go over here and we go basic LLM chain. So basic LLM chain. In order to get this AI to work, you need to plug in the LLM module that you want to use. Now you can use Claude, ChatGPT. There's a lot of different options that you have. I'm using ChatGPT here. Now in order for you to be able to add this on, which is really just the brain of the AI that you're choosing, in order for this module to work, you need an account at OpenAI. Okay, so you need to actually go and get not an account just at ChatGPT where you type in and talk to ChatGPT. It's from the developer backend where you can get your API credentials. You have to put a little bit of credit on your account. You can put like a couple of dollars to try this out. But you need to go and get an account at OpenAI, get your API credentials, and then add this module here. And again, just like anything that we're connecting, you have to put your credentials in. So again, like I said before, you got to get used to adding credentials to connect services when doing automation. So click the pencil icon, connect the service together, add your credentials, and then you're good to go. And then choose the model that you want to run this for. Okay, I've got GPT-4o on this one. Now, if you don't know how to connect, again, just read the docs link there that N8N give you. Once you've connected OpenAI to this chain here, I'm going to come back and show you the structured output and what that means. This is really helpful, the structured output that N8N has. Let's have a look inside here and see what we're doing. So what I'm doing in here is a pretty straightforward prompt. So what I'm telling it to do, I've given it a system prompt and a user prompt. Okay, so I'm saying you're an expert at reviewing YouTube comments and coming up with new content ideas based on the questions that people ask in the comments section of a video. And you also make sure you align any ideas with our brand avatar. Okay, so it knows what it's meant to do. All I've done here is given it a pretty basic prompt. You could play around with this a lot if you want to improve it and tweak it. You can read that, pause the video and read that if you want to. And then I just dynamically map in the comments, okay? And then I dynamically map in the brand avatar. So how do I do that? Well, all we got to do here is this data that just got pulled through from DataForSEO for us. In this feed here, if you dig deep, you'll find where there's a comment field. So if you look down to the results section right down here, you'll see there's a field here called title, and that's the field that we want to map in. So I think actually I got to go a little bit deeper into items. I'm just going to scroll that across so we can see a little bit deeper. Yeah, it's down here. So you can see all these items in here. These are the results of the comments underneath these videos. So if I collapse them all up, it's a little bit easier to see. I'm not going to do the whole lot. But this is where the information is that we want to be pulling. Right? So if you open one of them out, it's this text field here is the comment itself. Okay, so we want to pull that in. But if I just pull the first one in like that and dynamically map it, it's not going to do what we want. It's only going to get the first result because it's got item 0. It's not going to get all of these other results. So this is where a lot of people can get a little bit stuck when they're using N8N as they drag and try and drop something in and it doesn't work. The reason it's not working is it thinks you're telling the software just to grab the first result and that's all, and it's doing what you've asked it. What you need to do is you actually need to map these out. So the way you map it, if you just copy what I've got here, or I'll leave this automation underneath the video to make it easier for you guys. What you're going to do is just this little bit of adjustments here, if you like, and you just put map, okay? I won't go into the details of it, but if you just look exactly what I've done here, what happens when I map out, sorry, I'm just going to move that over like that. What happens here is, see here, the comments all get pulled through row by row by row by row, and it stitches them all together, okay? Because it's a map and join function is all this is doing. So you can sort of see it says map here, and it's mapping the text field, and it's joining them together, okay? So that's all that's doing. It gets all the comments in one hit for me there under the video, okay? It actually gets a few more than I realized. So then So these are all the comments that have been pulled through from this video. So that's one thing. Now I also want to give it the brand avatar of our brand avatar. So remember, that came through on the Airtable feed. So if I close up here, in the Airtable feed that we pulled through, that brand avatar came through. So I can drag and drop that in now and train the AI on our brand. Okay, and then I give it an example of the output that I want, like this. That's all I'm doing. It's pretty simple prompting. But what I want to do is require a specific output format, slide that onto green. And then you want to add a structured output parser. Okay, so in order to do that, just click there and go structured output parser, however you say that. And then in here, you want to give it an example of how you want the output. This is really important. Force the AI to output the way you want it to. It's much easier when building automations downstream. You force it to give it the structure that you want. Okay, so I've just given it this structure here. So then I can map these results back into Airtable when it's finished. So if I just do that, come out of here, I can now test this step, and all this information is now going to be fed into this. And then the AI is going to be going through results like that, reading all the information. It's going to give me an output in exactly the format that I forced it to give. So once it's done that, if I just hop out of there, you can see the results come through now, like that, exactly the way I wanted it to be structured. So if I hop out of here, what I want to do though, is I now want to iterate over this and add them back to Airtable row by row by row by row. I don't want to just ram the whole lot back into one cell in Airtable, because that won't be very useful for automation purposes. So what I did here is add a code node. So if you just go to the right and just go code like this, code. In the code node here, I've put a bit of JavaScript. It's pretty straightforward. And it's just going to restructure that output so I can iterate over it. Again, you can just use the example I've got under the video. But what I'm doing is I'm just outputting it in a way that the only fields I have are just these fields here. So if I close all these up, it's just got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fields, and then I can iterate through these in the next module. So it means it will go one by one by one rather than doing it in bulk. So I just test this. You can look at the structure. It's just restructuring the output here. See, on this side now, if I put that to schema, it just flattens it out for me, and I've got 5 results like this flattened out. Okay, so by doing that, now when I add an Airtable module here, I can add another Airtable module like this, but this time I want to do update a record, not get a record. I want to update a record. Okay, so click that. Sorry, not update, create a record. We're creating a new record. So in here, you open it up, put your credentials in just like you did before. But this time, it's the same base that we had, table rather, but the base is different. Instead of going and putting this content, these ideas back where we started, we don't want to put them on table 1. We want to put them on the content ideas table in here. This is where we want to populate all of our ideas. So we choose the content ideas table. So let's hop back and have a look at this. From the drop-down menu, choose content ideas. Now we want to make sure we're mapping in all these results that just came out. So to make it easier, I'm just going to close everything else up. So you can see this code node. It's only got one result here instead of 7 or 5 actually that it had before. And that's what we want, because we want it to just update Airtable one row at a time. And this is why we restructured it to be able to do that. So in the category field, set all of these fields to expression. So in the category, all I do is it's the type. I actually called it type on the output. Drag type into category like that. Okay. And then in the search field here, actually going to leave that one blank. This one here, the reason, drop it into the bottom one where it's called reason. You just map all of these into the fields in your table that you set up in the beginning. Value goes in there into description, and then title goes into the title field. Once you've done that, these ideas for YouTube videos are now going to be added to Airtable for us automatically. So if I click test step, it's going to update them. Now I'm not going to do it because we did it before already, but that's how we got these ideas. It just adds them to the video already. So just to recap what we're actually doing before we move on to the next part of this is we scraped a YouTube video. We got all of the comments extracted from that video. We passed those comments to an AI with a prompt, and we gave it the avatar of our channel, and we told it, I want you to come up with ideas for content based on what people are talking about and asking about. So we get to the heartbeat of what's going on in a niche, and then we can come up with content ideas. And then we're just adding them back to Airtable. So it's pretty straightforward automation at this point. I mean, the whole thing's pretty straightforward, hopefully. So after we've done that, what we can do, though, is expand out. So now that we have a seed idea from an Airtable, from a YouTube video, we can expand that out and just branch out and do some more research using another DataForSEO endpoint, which I'll show you. One thing I forgot to mention here is what we said on this AI where we prompted it, we also asked it to give us a search output here, the search output. So you might be wondering, well, what's that for? What I told the AI to do in here is I said it needs to create, for each content idea, also include a search field. This should contain a realistic Google search phrase that someone might use if they were trying to find out content like this. So I'm basically saying, for the content idea that you came up with from the video, create a search term for a Google search as well based on that same content idea. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to take that output and I'm going to feed it in downstream into this module. And in order to create another module here for DataForSEO, just get your previous one here and click these three dots and go duplicate. Just duplicate it. And then over here, all you got to do is change the endpoint. So if we go back to DataForSEO, all we're doing is changing this endpoint. Instead of it going to YouTube, we're going to change it to Google. And we're going to leave it like that. And it's this result here, Google Organic. So what we're doing is we're telling DataForSEO it's going to a live Google search results page, and it's looking for all the sections that Google has on that page. And you'll notice on a Google results page, it has things like people often ask, or people also search, or forums. There's all sorts of different blocks that Google has now, and that's really useful information that we can pull through. So we're going to use this endpoint here, okay? So if I just go back here, all I'm doing is changing the endpoint. So this is still a post method. It's an HTTP post. The URL is just this URL here. It's just a different endpoint. This is the endpoint that I'm using. Everything else stays exactly the same. The only thing that will change is the body. So again, to get the body, go to the DataForSEO, to the code example, click it, and they'll show you how to put the body in here. So just paste exactly the structure they give you, but what you want to change out is the keyword field in here, and we're going to dynamically map that search phrase that we got the AI to create that relates to the content idea that it came up with from reading the comments on the YouTube video. So if I take that search idea and just drop it in there like that, now it's going to be able to do a live search with it. So I have to execute the previous module for that to work. So let me just update Airtable. It's going to duplicate that because I probably should have cleaned the table out, but that's fine. It's just updating Airtable. Now it's finished. I can run this module. Now it's going to go to DataForSEO, and it's going to do a live search results based on these keywords. Now, once it's done that, I can then map the fields out on here by doing an edit fields module here. So let me just show you how this is going to work. So I just had to pause the video because I noticed there was an error in the edit fields node. So I'll just explain what happened and then you can avoid it yourself. But you need this edit fields node to do that. Go up to the top and just go edit and choose an edit fields or a set field module. I'll explain what we're going to do in here. So first of all, the error that came up was if we go to the DataForSEO in the body field, the keyword wasn't mapping properly because the structure had changed. So I'd added another Airtable module in here when I was building this and I hadn't realized, and I was referencing the wrong module. So I had to come in here and I had to get that search phrase from in here, from the code node, and drop that in there. I had the wrong reference in. But now you can see it maps that perfectly like that. So by doing that, if I test that step, it's going to send a request to DataForSEO, search term by search term for all the previous 5 results that it had. So it's doing that right now, and it's going to pull back all the related data. So once this is pulled back, we can store that data in that set node. So I'll show you while that's doing that. Let's go to the set node, then we'll come back and have a look at that in a second. In this set node, what we're going to pull back from that feed is all the titles of the web pages that were ranking in Google related to that keyword. So you can see here it's populated now. We're also going to map in the field people also ask, the discussion forums, people also search, and then all the URLs. And we're also going to grab the AI summary. You'll notice that in the results pages for Google now, they have a Gemini AI result, right? So we can actually grab that and get what their AI says about the topic. Sometimes it doesn't give you that, sometimes it does. Let's see if it got it this time. No, it didn't get it this time. It doesn't always give you that result because it's not always there. So that if that's blank, that's why. But if we look up here and look at all the titles here, these are all the titles of the web pages that were ranking for that keyword. Okay, so this gives us an idea of different titles that people are putting content out related to this idea. So we don't have to use that, but we might as well while we're grabbing it. People also ask, now this is where it's really valuable. These are real questions that Google tells you real people ask that relate to the content idea that you're coming up with. So this is super valuable because this is what people want to know about. They're telling you these are real questions that they want answers for. So when you're a content creator, you want to be creating content that people want to know about. You want to answer the real questions that people have. And this is one other way to find it using automation. Obviously, we did the scraping of the YouTube comments. This is another way to get to it. So discussion forums will also pull back questions that people ask here. People also search. So related keywords that they use to look for content. Obviously, this is for search engines, but you can still create social media and YouTube stuff out of this because you're just understanding the niche by doing this. We can get the URLs if we want them from the top ranked websites. We don't have to use those, but we could scrape those if we wanted to. And then the AI summary. So if I test that, it's going to pull all that stuff through and organize it for me. So if you're wondering like what's going on here, you can see if I open up, I'm going to open this people also ask. Again, in here, we need to do a little bit of code in order to map exactly what we want. And we need to add a few functions in here. So you can just copy what I've got to save you time. But basically, all we're doing is we're looking for the field people also ask here. Okay, and we're doing a flat map, which is grabbing all the results of that, stitching them together and flattening them out in a structure that's easy to read like that for an AI. It flattens it all out into a text output. That's why we've stringified it here. We turned it into a string. Okay, so that's all this is doing. So it makes it easy to map a whole bunch of content like this really quickly. And it's doing it for all the fields, by the way. You can see all of the fields have got the same structure. So now that we've got the content in a useful way, we can now add another LLM chain, which is exactly what we did before, but this time we're just feeding it different inputs and asking for the same structured output. So the structured output's identical. It's just the content ideas. And notice in the content ideas, we tell it, which type of content is this for? Is it a social media post? Is it a long form or a short form? And the AI will come up with the ideas for us. Sorry, I guess did that twice. Hop out of here. All I'm doing in here is really quite straightforward. I'm just tweaking the prompt that I had the step before, but instead of being a YouTube video comments that it's scrolling through, it's different inputs, right? So I just tweak it a little bit from the previous. So you can have a look at what I've done there and pause the video. But all I'm doing is just mapping in those previous fields that we just pulled and stored in the edits field node. So I'm pulling in the titles that people also ask, and I'm just mapping them all in here like this. And I also pull in the brand avatar. And then I just prompt it to come up with a content ideas. And then it gets all this information here, and then it spits out content ideas based on that, which I'm going to run that again now so you can see in live what it's doing. All I'm doing then is adding another code node exactly like I did here so I can iterate and add these back to Airtable. And then it's going to add more content ideas, but we're just sort of tweaking the source of where we're getting the inspiration for the ideas from. So we're kind of doing a two-stepped approach, starting with YouTube comments. And then once this is finished, we run the code node and then it will update Airtable automatically for us. So I'll pause the video while it's iterating through this, and then you'll see the finished result. Okay, so the AI is finished coming up with the results. I can then go to the code node. Let's run that as a test. It's going to restructure this so I can iterate over it and put it into Airtable like that. And then if I click into Airtable and I click test step, it's going to add them. But because I've already got this, I won't do that step again. If we head over to Airtable, in the content ideas, this is where all the ideas arrive. So basically, that's the end of this automation. I hope you found this useful. If you like this sort of content, let me know, because I'm going to do another video if I get enough likes and comments on this one on how to do the same sort of principle, but with TikTok. I'm going to set up an automation where we're going to put in a bunch of competitors from TikTok. We're going to scrape the videos that they do, read the transcripts, pass them into an AI, get the AI to go through the transcripts, summarize what they're talking about, any new techniques that they're using, so I can get the AI to summarize and tell me what's happening in my niche and to give me content ideas and that route. So it's just another way of going about it. So by building out these different kind of spy tools, we can get AIs keeping an eye on everything in our niche. So we don't have to go and watch all these videos and read all these comments. We want a whole team of AIs doing this for us. So we get more stuff done ourselves rather than having to spend time doing that. So if you found this video useful, do me a huge favor if you could. Hit the thumbs up, give me a like and a subscribe, and the JSON that you need for the N8N automations below. So thanks very much for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.